Hey guys, I hope everyone is doing well today. So in this video, I want to go over my basic Pokemon card and other TCG and CCG investment and collectible strategy for the next, certainly the next year, and I imagine for the next few years. So the main point of this video and takeaway from this video is that I'm going to be making a case for why now in particular is a really good time to invest in rarity, and that rarity is the most underestimated and I think elusive fundamental right now that that I really think the market is undervaluing, and I'm going to make a case for why I think that is right now and how you can capitalize off of it. This is precisely what I'm doing at the moment and what I have been doing for the past 4 to 5 months. I've been trying to sort of sell off and move and buy and trade and move my collection towards what I think is going to do the best over the next 5 to 10 years. So the types of cards and the types of items that I would be buying. I'm gonna grab a few examples. I would be buying cards like these. First appearance, amazingly popular, awesome Pokemon, first edition holos from these Neo sets, non-first appearance, but incredible art, extremely popular Pokemon Arcanine, cards that do not have, Pokemon that do not have a lot of amazing chase cards, super difficult to grade, super expensive boxes, these types of cards, your PSA 10 gold stars, your low pop ones, these types of card, if you can afford, this level of card, a card like this, a bit cheaper, but still very expensive, extremely rare, very few of these types of cards printed probably exist in the world, if over 100, probably not over 200, or of these types of things ever printed. If you're looking at other hobbies, I'll show one of my recent acquisitions. The Charizard of DBZ Score. This is the only full foil 9.5 that exists in the world at this moment. Last time I checked. I'll show one more, Pokemon that are not necessarily as popular, but have super low pop, extremely difficult to grade, and I think really cool art, again, first appearance cards. And the reason why I would be buying those types of cards, and I'm going to add, and I didn't pull them out, but I'm going to add, low pop, promos, low pop vintage card, vintage pre-TCG Japanese, low pop as long as you're carefully watching the pop, middle generation, D and P, Diamond and Pearl, some cards, some secret rares, different sorts of opportunities potentially in there. And the reason why I would be buying these things right now, and the reason why I think the market is underestimating these things, is because of this factor. So what has happened in the last year, from my perspective, is that we've had a lot of people who have been in the hobby a long time who have not seen that much growth on their cards. Now, of course, the hobby has grown a very large amount, right? I have a friend of mine who purchased his PSA 10 first edition Charizard at $700, who recently sold, for $350,000, right? And if he had sold a year ago, he would have made $35,000, off of that. But we've seen this humongous growth in 1 year that has moved a lot of these cards from $35,000, which is very tempting to sell that, to $350,000, which is goes from tempting to sell to life-changing money for many of the people in the Pokemon card hobby. And when you see that type of life-changing money, it's going to bring a lot of collections out and bring a lot of these high-end amazing cards that normally are not going to be sold so much, that normally are not going to be hitting the market this much. And so we've really seen that this year, from cards like this that I showed to, base set PSA 10 first edition cards to trophy cards. We've seen, another one of these, another PSA 9 is up for auction right now in PWCC. There are only 15 PSA 9s in the world. Likely there have been a couple that are cracked and were tried to regrade for 10s and got 9s again, so there are probably less. There are these types of cards that normally, I think, or if there hadn't been such a huge spike in price, it'd be much rarer to see those cards come on the market. And so what's happened is, in the short term, it has given I think the general impression of people collecting, particularly newer people into the hobby, that these items are not that rare, that these items are not that scarce, and that they can always purchase these items as long as they have the money to, and or with some of these lower priced cards, that they can certainly afford them, but that there maybe isn't such a rush to buy them. And because they've moved up so much in price, there's that hesitancy to buy them. I think that's very reasonable and rational. But I think when we compare what's going on with those types of cards to what's happening in Modern, where I think people are getting the impression that, and I even if we're aware rationally of this fact, I think people are getting this impression that these types of cards, even though they look at the pop reports and see the numbers that they're probably much rarer, they seem like they're not that much rarer, or not significantly rarer or scarcer, because they've been changing hands and they've been coming on the market, and because PSA has been so backed up that the vast, like 95% at least, if not more, of the Modern PSA cards are right now at PSA being graded and are not on the market yet. And so there's this feeling for the moment that I can always get these type of cards, I can always get the Modern cards, and it's all kind of the same. And I think even if, as I'm saying before, even if you rationally know that isn't true, psychologically and emotionally, it's very difficult to pull yourself away from that reality. So I want you to imagine a world where, this card, the first, Tyranitar, PSA 10 Tyranitar, an incredibly popular Pokemon, an amazing art, an amazing card in the hobby, where this card doesn't come on the market for 3 years. Rather than there being like 3 or 4 trying to be sold on a market, one comes up for auction every month. People are listing them pretty high because they really do want to sell them right now, because, as I said before earlier in the video, they've made so much money on them and it's life-changing money now for those people that they want to sell them. Once these cards have changed into the hands of wealthier individuals who can afford to hold them, this is the type of item, if it disappears from the market, where you could see humongous jumps in prices, exponentially huge jumps in prices, and it would actually make sense, be based on fundamentals, and be sustainable, because there would be no more product that's going to come out of the woodwork if this card actually builds in price over time. So that is why my investing strategy, if you are bullish on the long term of Pokemon like me, and again, it's a huge risk, I would not be putting money into Pokemon. I'd be building out, and not a financial advisor, but I'd be building out my stock portfolio. I'd be putting a decent amount of money into, into a wide variety of assets, learning about real estate, seeing if that's something you're interested in doing, before I'd be putting significant money into this. But depending on your income level, a lot of these cards are still, $1,000, $2,000, a few $100, depending on your income level, you might be able to do some investing while you can also start buying some of these, or even buy one, or two of them for your collection, that type of thing. That would be a far, far better investment, in my opinion, in the long run, and I'm talking very long run, than if you buy, anything at all that's modern right now. Outside of cards that are not mass-produced, potentially, such as promos, modern type trophy cards that worlds promos, cards that were given out for some sort of event. Obviously we haven't had those this year, but we'll again have them next year. That sort of thing as tournament play gets underway. Art Academy cards, those types of things where there are only 100 in the world, right? And the point I want to end on, and I think part of the reason why there's a bit of people are making this mistake right now on really what modern is and what it's capable of doing in the future, and making this really really unfortunate argument that people say that, well, it took these cards 20 years to become valuable, the same thing will happen with modern, is that these cards are rare and will always be rare. And if we want to talk in relative terms, much, much rarer than these modern cards, because people are keeping them in such great condition, and they're getting them slabbed so that they will forever be in PSA 10 and PSA 9 slabs, unlike these cards, which all, most of them were sort of lost to people's collections, to people throwing out collections, all these sorts of things. I think a lot of people coming from like the sports card market and other sort of areas may be making a mistake where they're comparing the modern sports market, which is a lot stronger and has a lot more potential for investment, and I'm going to explain why, to the Pokemon modern market, which really lacks the fundamentals to ever see the type of exponential growth that I would expect vintage Pokemon to see if modern holds its prices and continue to go up. So I want to say that one more time because that's very key. I'm not saying that I'm sure that modern Pokemon is going to collapse in price, okay? And why that is because there just may be so much demand that even as the PSA cards hit the market, the demand stays so high and extends long enough into the future that enough people are able to absorb all of that modern supply, and then different multi-generations get in it. Kids want the cards that they collected as a kid. That's definitely possible for a lot of these modern cards, but I'm telling you, if that happens, best case scenario for modern, I would be shocked if these cards didn't have an exponential, humongous growth on top of that. Okay, so I want that to be very clear, but going back to that sort of sports cards to Pokemon comparison modern, the real issue is that sports cards, two things. The main thing is that sports cards have manufactured rarity. Okay, and that's what Pokemon is really lacking. So although they have these secret rares and the shiny vault, and there are lots and lots of shiny Pokemon, so it is pretty difficult to pull one of those shiny Charizards, for example, or any specific shiny. It's nothing at all compared to what sports is doing, where they're doing literal one of ones, of a Logo Man rookie signed autograph, patch basketball player. And we don't know how that card is going to do in the long run. It'll be really interesting to see how manufactured rarity is absorbed by the market over time, and how it's thought about 10, 20 years from now. People in the sports card market may look back on that and say, I prefer the stuff that didn't have the manufactured rarity. I prefer the mass-produced rookie card that's very rare because it was beat up and it wasn't kept in good condition, and naturally they sort of disappeared over time, or they were very poor printing, and so it was even fresh out of pack. It was almost impossible to get a PSA 10, that sort of thing. But putting that aside, that card right now is extremely rare, right? Unlike anything we have in Pokemon set cards, one. And two, it is of brand new players that people are and new generations are going to see and collect, and that are going to be in the forefront of people's attentions and fandom. And there is some of that in Pokemon if we think about how the new starters might be the most popular with the kids today because they're going to be playing Sword and Shield. Maybe that's their first game they ever play. And so they get connected, and they're watching the anime right now. And so they get connected to those new starters more than they do the Gen 1 and these sorts of things. But the big difference in Pokemon is that if you look at Pokemon and if you look at these modern sets, what are the most expensive cards from those sets? Not the rookie card, not the first appearance of the new Pokemon. The most expensive ones are still the Charizard. It's still the original card, okay? And that is both going to make these vintage cards much, much more valuable because they're the first appearance of the card that's still the most valuable today. And kids are going to remember that the most valuable cards when they were younger was Charizard, and they're going to want the Charizard, and then they're going to want the original Charizard, okay? So unlike sports where there's more of an argument to be made that modern has real potential because those are different separate players, and modern and young kids today may not want some of those vintage players. It's a great debate. It's a really interesting topic, and I think there are good points to be made on both sides. In Pokemon, I think there's a much weaker case for this sort of stuff. So, I would really implore you, at the end of the day, and this is, how I am. I have lots of modern. I try to open every set. I try to get my favorite arts from each modern set because I love them. I'm not putting in that money as an investment. Now, do I think that it's possible that those cards could go up over time and make me money? Absolutely 100%. But again, if that happens, I would expect these types of cards, the trophy cards, the, high graded low pop Neo, E series, and even, gyms, Jungle Fossil, Team Rocket, to be the cards that are those historic, multi-generational, everyone searching for them, everyone going for them. And imagine a world where rather, to repeat the point from earlier, where rather than those 10s being available, they just are no longer ever available at all. And then imagine a world where the 9s, start to become the chase, and what happens to the 9s. And then maybe the 7s and 8s even start to become very valuable. And that really will change the marketplace and is my hope long-term in Pokemon. So I'm preparing my long-term holds to follow what I'm expecting to happen based on the logic that I've talked about in this video. I think your other alternative is definitely, if you want to be more active in the market, Modern is a phenomenal place to buy and sell and flip and be engaged. And, there's still going to be, for the foreseeable future, a lot of money and a lot of interest in that. And if the demand does dip on Modern, which it very well might at some point. Certainly there's no signs of that happening right now. We're about, we're doing Shining Fates right now, and then we're going to have the Eevee set, and, there's so much that people are excited about. People love Pokemon. It's also good to just take a moment to celebrate how well it's doing, how fun it is. But as always, my channel is definitely geared towards helping people really put themselves in the best position long term. And if you do decide to really invest in Pokemon, how to mitigate your risk and maximize your potential, the potential long-term value of your collection. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope this video finds you well out there, and that it gives you some interesting points to consider in your investing journey. And at least you can think critically about what I'm saying here, and apply it to your current strategies. Okay, so hope everyone is doing well out there as always, and I will see a lot of you on Sunday for the live stream, which I'm as always very much looking forward to. All right, take care.